So first of all, as we all know, the demographic shift in the UK is towards more and more elderly people. And in particular, there's going to be a very big increase in the oldest old, the 85 plus category. Demographic shifts like this are extremely reliable. They're not subject to this kind of changes you can get with government policy. So these kind of forecasts we know are coming, and there's nothing really anybody can do to change that. But what that means for social care services is a bigger demand on their services. But within the older people bracket as well, there are also additional trends. So one of the main ones, of course, is the CARE Act from 2014, which has a big drive towards personalisation and individual choice to give people more control of their care. I'm a big fan of this. I think it's a really good idea because in general, the more input people have into their own care plan, the better the outcomes we see for that individual. But there are challenges associated with that. Also with the CARE Act, we also see more of a tight integration between local authorities, social care and health. This is a trend as well that's just going to continue over the coming years as these become more and more unified, and it's a big challenge for lots of councils. So within that then, to get personalisation, one of the key methods that we can do that is by giving people direct payments, personal budgets and direct payments. And this applies both for social care and for health. So as you can see in this graph here, over the last 7 or 8 years, we've seen the number of people receiving direct payments go up by a factor of nearly 4. And this is a trend as well that's going to continue. One thing we've seen with all the councils we've spoken to is that there's very much a demand to increase direct payments amongst their service users. And again, I think that's a trend set to continue. ChooseCare can certainly help with that. But then within direct payments, there's also additional trends. So one of the key ones that we've seen is that big increase in demand for personal assistants, PAs. So this is a trend that's been going on for a long period of time, predicted to massively increase in the future as well. So this graph shows the next 10 years, as well as the past 5, and there's probably going to be a doubling or more of the PA workforce and PA jobs in the market. PAs in general are quite good because they on average, all the studies have shown they lead to better outcomes, and it means a tighter and better relationship between the care recipients and the person delivering care. Also, on average, they tend to be slightly cheaper as well than commercial domiciliary care providers, which again helps the budget pressures that lots of councils face. So the numbers estimate that there might be up to 1 million PAs employed by 2025 in the UK. So again, a big increase. So what does that mean for the market? So on one side of the market, we have consumers. So consumers are a vast and growing proportion of the population. There's literally millions of them out there, consumers for social care and health. But in general, they're very poorly informed. So a lot of people, especially to begin with, don't even really have a good understanding of what social care is and what options there are within that. And on top of that, it's actually a very emotional decision. We're talking about decisions that are often made during crisis points, and they can have long-lasting impacts as well on people's lives. On the flip side of that, we've got providers. So there's lots of different kinds of providers. ChooseCare is going to incorporate all of those in due course, but in particular, there's home care and voluntary services, equipment, care homes. The point is there's a very, very large number of them. So the provider market is highly fragmented. It's not like supermarkets where there's maybe 5 or 6 key players that you can choose between and are all household names. Here it's a highly fragmented market with tens of thousands of companies providing care. That makes it extremely difficult to navigate. So on one side, if you've got a vast growing consumer population who are poorly informed, and then combine that with to try and match amongst a highly fragmented, difficult to navigate provider market, there's a challenge there, especially if you're giving people money in the form of a direct payment and they have to make their own choices. So that's where ChooseCare comes in. It's going to be a marketplace in between those two players, and we're going to help match people to the appropriate provider and the appropriate services. And in particular, at the moment, we're focusing on a direct payment management solution for councils. So what are the challenges then based on that? So for local authorities, they can find direct payments difficult to manage. So for example, if there's chronic underspend of direct payments allowances, recovering that money is quite a slow and difficult process. It can also be quite challenging as well at the end of a direct payment provision if the money needs to be reclaimed. For service users, there's one of the conditions with a direct payment is a regular audit of the spending. So in some cases, that means people have to maintain receipts, invoices, collect information for that audit, and then send it out on a quarterly basis. This is a lot of work for the service user, and also a lot of work for the local authority as well to do that audit process. For providers, they also have some pain with direct payment clients that we've seen. The big one being that they have to sometimes chase unpaid invoices, and so they have a finance team normally in place to do that, but this is quite a slow and difficult process because we're talking about often very vulnerable people, and chasing down unpaid invoices is quite tricky. So all those three challenges we've tried to address with the ChooseCare platform to alleviate as much of that as possible. So the ChooseCare platform we hope to be as easy and as simple to use and easy to manage as possible. I think when we go into the live demo, you'll see that for yourselves. For providers, we're trying to reduce their costs and simplify their back office process, especially financial processes. For service users, we want it to be easy to navigate amongst all the providers. We want to be able to reduce their administration time and effort, and we also want to increase visibility as well for friends and family. And then for the council, we want to improve their internal operational processes around direct payments, particularly the setup and audit of direct payment clients. We want to improve community support and give them much more transparency about the kind and volume of spend that people are spending their direct payments on. We also want to try and reduce the idea of cash payments we also want to reduce the amount of cash payments as well because they can be quite tricky to manage.
I'll just hand you back over to Jeff now, who will discuss the results with you. Thank you, Jeff.
So the results of the poll, so it's closed now. So quite overwhelmingly, actually, with a 50% response, we got the most important thing to the people was understanding the self-funded market. So yeah, I can see that being very important for lots of councils. The idea here is if you can get, I mean, this is certainly where we're going with ChooseCare, if you can get people to engage with managing their own care early, then you can get them self-funding even before they have any eligible needs and before they need to even approach the council. First of all, they'll be more educated when they do eventually come to the council, if they eventually come to the council. And also it'll give you an evidence log of what's effective from the point of view of prevention, early prevention and intervention, which at the moment I know from the councils I've been speaking to is a real gap. It's very hard to decide how to spread around charity budgets or any kind of voluntary sector budgets without an evidence base. So we hope to try and provide that with the self-funders, and also be a really easy way to direct people from contact onto ChooseCare and maybe learn a little bit about social care and maybe self-fund without even needing to go through the council. So that's a good one. The next most common response there was to formalise the way that personal assistants are managed. And again, it's on the list here because that's another one that we see from councils quite a lot. A lot of councils want to encourage PAs, but management of PAs is quite tricky. And so, in particular, PAs who are employed by the direct payment recipient, that can be an absolute minefield for people to try and set up and manage because you've got all the employment regulations, payroll regulations, you've got things like maternity and paternity leave, pension obligations. There's a whole world of employment regulation there. And if we can try and manage that and make that as simple as possible for service users, that can be a key part of encouraging PA uptake. So yeah, thanks very much for that. We can probably talk about more of that in the Q&A session at the end as well. So if you do have any questions, just make sure you type them up as we go through, and then we'll cover those off at the end.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So we're now going to move to the section of the agenda where we take you straight into the system, show you a snippet of the ChooseCare system itself, so you can see for yourself what we've been talking about and see how it can bring about those benefits. So back over to you, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully now you should be seeing the ChooseCare platform. First thing to note is I'm currently in the QA environment, which stands for quality assurance. This is the environment we use for testing before we go out for full release. So please don't be alarmed if you see things like ridiculous hourly rates or very large or very small packages of care. It's all test data. For obvious reasons, we don't want to share any real data. Our team of testers try and actively break the site by doing some crazy things. So please try and look past that if any of that does appear. So everybody, when they start their journey with ChooseCare, get an account created for them when they decide to take a direct payment, assuming, of course, the council uses ChooseCare. So their account gets pre-set up with all their information, their name, address, telephone number, the forecast amounts they'll receive from the council, and also forecast amounts for any service user contributions, and they get given a step-by-step guide in the mail along with their initial setup details to get started. So I've logged in now, so I've skipped that login step, and I've logged in as the direct payment recipient, and that's the journey I'm going to be going through today. So this is our home page. So for example, what they might try and do to begin with is search perhaps for, let's say they search for arthritis, if they have arthritis or something like that. We've tried to be very general in our search so that we can pull out all kinds of things, whether it's particular needs or specialties for different providers. And this page here, it's under continual improvement, but what we're showing here are all the results and all the providers on the platform which are relevant for that search term. And the first thing to note is we pull across and we are directly connected to the Care Quality Commission database. So you can see here the up to the minute reports, and we have a link so that you can click through and view those providers and view the latest reports from the Care Quality Commission. During co-design, one of the things we found when taking focus groups and panels of users is that, again, going back to the point about poor knowledge of the social care market, most people aren't even aware of the CQC, but actually some of the reports they've got, as long as they're relatively recent, which can be a problem all of its own, but the reports they've got are often very detailed and very informative and quite interesting to people. So pulling that forward and making it quite prominent was something that we were encouraged to do from our focus groups. So let's say they might scroll through. I'm going to pick my Care Choices because they've got a slightly fuller profile than some of the other test providers. So here I'm going to go to View Full Details. So this page here would be maintained by the care provider, by Care Choices in this case. All the information on this, obviously apart from the CQC section, is entered by them, and they're in control of what they look like on the ChooseCare platform. So for providers, we are kind of a way that they can market themselves on the platform. So here we've got a bit more of a breakdown about their latest Care Quality Commission report, so that if they've got that information, you can click through to see it. A bit of text about the company. Again, demo user here, but any information about the services they offer or specialties that their carers have. The next step then for me as a new direct payment recipient would be to request a free consultation. So this form here was co-designed with providers to make sure that we gave them all the information they need to have a successful introductory visit. So with our provider terms and conditions, one of the conditions is they do a free visit to begin with to discuss the support plan that they might be able to assist to put in place. So here I would say maybe I would like a free consultation on Monday. I'd like to talk about activities and perhaps some domestic help. And of course I might as well go with the arthritis example. And then preferences for your carer. So at this stage I can be not specific, but say I do actually have a language or gender preference, which can then help the provider have the follow-up conversation. Pets and had care before are 2 bits of extra information that providers have requested, which again are very relevant for that first visit, in particular the pets issue. So that's things we wouldn't have spotted without co-design. And then when they send that off as a request, the provider would get alerted to respond to that request, and they would ring up and arrange that free consultation via telephone and then confirm it as a booking in the platform. I'm not going to show you the provider journey at this stage. I'm going to stick to the service user journey at the moment. So we're going to assume that first consultation happens, and then the result from that would be a quote for this person to then view and accept or not on ChooseCare. So I'm going to go in now to my dashboard, which is really the primary area where ChooseCare is used to manage care on an ongoing basis. So there are a number of other e-marketplaces out there for adult social care, but this part here, where we go into more detail about how care is actively managed on an ongoing basis, is really what distinguishes us from all our competitors. So here we've got a to-do panel here, and this can be extended for lots and lots of different things in the to-do panel, depending on the nature of their package. But at the moment here, we've got a quote which was created at the beginning of February for some care. So I can view that. Let's have a look at this quote. So what we're seeing here is, and again, this is where the test data comes in. This is an incredibly expensive package. But what we've got here are a number of appointments each day, Monday through Sunday. I can see Steve is the carer who's been assigned to me. He's going to come between 7 and 8:30. That would normally be something on the order of 15 to 20 pounds rather than 10,000. But again, the testers here are probably just trying to break the platform. And so we've got a package here with a weekly duration and a weekly cost. It's up to me then to either accept or reject that. Normally this quote would be something that would be discussed in the free consultation anyway, in that initial face-to-face visit. So none of this should really be a surprise when the quote comes through. And in fact, we encourage providers to generate the quote on platform during the visit. So I can accept and add that to schedule if I'd like, or I could reject it. So I'm not going to accept that one because all kinds of crazy finance things would happen. So let's just close that one off. That would not be in reality what would happen is that would not be an affordable quote, and ChooseCare would prevent me from actually accepting a quote that expensive because I don't have the income to be able to support that. I'll come on to that. I'll come on to the finance side a bit later. The next page here is my schedule. So here we can see, I'll go to the weekly view. Here we can see each day of the week and all the different carers and time slots of all the visits I've currently got on the platform from accepted quotes. All the appointments here are accepted quotes, and this is care that we would expect to be delivered. So what I can do here is I can say, again, part of the management aspect is to say for anything that happened in the past, I can report it if there's a problem or give feedback on that. So if we go into Monday, here are the Monday appointments. Maybe, for example, I'd like to say Steve did a really great job at 7 o'clock in the morning appointments. So I can click on reports, I can click feedback, and then I can enter any feedback I'd like. About that particular visit, and then that would go directly to the provider for review, and they can see the feedback they get there, and it's all recorded on the platform. This is also monitored by our operations team just in case of any safeguarding concerns. Also, I don't know if you saw there on the report button, there's the option as well to request a refund. So, for example, if the carer doesn't arrive or that care doesn't happen, what they can do here is they can flag that up for refund, and then the provider knows that until they resolve that refund request, they won't actually get paid for the appointment. Again, I'll come on to the finances a bit later. The other part of managing care is about looking forward and saying, actually, in the future, you'd like to adjust your package for whatever reason. So if I go forward a week to the 13th of February, all these are future appointments. If I go into Monday here, so what I can do now is instead of report or give feedback, I can request a change to any of these appointments. Under change here, I can request a cancellation, and our cancellation policy with providers is fixed at you can cancel any appointment after 48 hours in the future. Within 48 hours, it goes through as a request, and it's up to the provider then to either accept or reject that request. Or you can say instead, please kind of reschedule it, and then you can change the date and the time of the appointments. And you can do that for all future similar appointments at that time and date. So that's again another example of what we mean by the management aspect. And of course, then there's also a new request at the top right. If you'd like to request an additional appointment, perhaps to cover a weekend visit that your family are no longer there for, or some other reason like that. The next tab here is my network. This is currently quite basic. It's all about delegation. Delegation is one of the first things we came across when we were doing co-design. The idea with delegate access is that a lot of people, maybe if they're not familiar with IT, or perhaps if they've got learning disabilities and they're not able to manage their own care from a financial perspective and need a suitable person to do that for them, they would need a delegate who can then control their ChooseCare account and their direct payments account on their behalf. So you can do that through the platform. You can offer somebody delegate access, and then that person then can accept that delegate access, and then they can switch role. The way they do that, I'm not a delegate at the moment, but I would click on my name up here and I would switch role to behave as somebody else, and then I can act, and then there'll be a banner at the top saying you're acting on behalf of Mrs. Smith, and then I can do things like schedule care, accept quotes, request quotes, and do all the other functionality that I've been showing you, but you're doing it this time on behalf of somebody else, and then that's all audited and logged appropriately. The council also have complete visibility of this, and they also have the ability to veto any delegate access and say, I'd like to shut that down now because I've discovered that's no longer appropriate. Of course, I can revoke it myself as a service user, and also the delegate can revoke access to, and then the appropriate alert is sent out. The next bit I'd like to discuss is another bit which is where we think we're particularly strong compared to other e-marketplaces out there, and that's the level in which we go into the management of funds. So I like to think of it that we're not only we're not only the Amazon sort of experience with the shopping and the scheduling and things like that, we're also the PayPal in the back end. Every ChooseCare account comes with a bank account effectively in the background. Now, it's not a real bank account, and that's why we can set accounts up so quickly. But it's a completely it's a virtual bank account that we hold on their behalf as part of a council pot of money that funds ChooseCare. So here we can see, I mean, again, all test data here, so please ignore the fact that I'm actually in debt, but because that would never happen in reality. But here we can see I've got an opening balance. It would break down, maybe if we go into the future, here we go. It would break down any contributions that are coming my way. For example, council contribution next month, again, a very big number, but this is where it would show what the council are expected to contribute next month. It breaks out any service user contribution I'm supposed to give, and we give reporting to the council about how far ahead or behind each service user is on their own personal contributions. And because we hold all the bookings and all the costs, right the way down to the carer and the individual booking costs level, we can show that at the moment I've got pending visits of £3,000 in the calendar for March. So I can forecast ahead through time and see exactly what my balance is being spent on, how much I have left, and if I can need to manage or adjust my care as appropriate, I can do that. And it also clearly breaks out contributions and when they will be due and when they will be arriving in the account. Very briefly then, I won't spend too much time on some of the later tabs because I'm running over a little bit, I think. But here we can see a tab here which describes the next payment. So at the moment, the next payment I'm going to be paying out of my account is a big £9,000 payment to a couple of providers for booked care that has been delivered. So I can see that from a visibility point of view. I get the chance to flag anything for refund if I think any of that's inappropriate. And then I've also got this view here, which shows effectively like a bank statement view. So if I go back and get a bit more on the screen there. Here I selected from December through to now. You can see all the appointments, how much they cost, how long they were, the date and time, and then when the transaction went through to pay for that. So this is a full bank statement view, which allows easy monitoring of the ChooseCare account. And this view here, and all this data is synchronized and visible to the council as well. One common question we get, and one of the very first things we found out with our service user pilots and co-design, is the fact that often you will want to spend money, your direct payment account money, on services or products which aren't available on ChooseCare. Now, over time, we will gradually expand our provider base and different types and different services, equipment, voluntary community services, daycare, all kinds of different things, respite. But at the moment, it's only booked home care that's available on the ChooseCare platform. So for anything else, you have to go off-platform for that. And the way we do that is with fund withdrawals. Here you can make a request for cash, and then it's up to the council then to say whether or not that request for cash is approved or not. If approved, pardon me. Thank you, Joe. A sip of water. If the request is approved, then of course that money will be transferred to your own personal account so that you can use that like any other money you've got in your current account. Every request has to come with a reason, and you can only withdraw what you can afford to try and prevent any problems there. And then if the way it works is the council can say, for each user, I will pre-approve up to a certain figure, and that could be nothing, or it could be £100 or £1,000 or whatever, and that could be pre-approved each month. But then anything in excess of that pre-approved amount would have to be manually approved on a request-by-request basis by the council in order to be transferred. Once approved, it gets transferred automatically to their own designated account. And in future, we will also be offering prepaid cards to go alongside this, so that instead of transferring funds to a current account, the funds will be transferred to a prepaid card, a debit card that you can use and spend as normal. So that we also offer full prepaid card functionality in the background, but however, that's not quite released yet. Finally, there's the ability to top up the account with money. So the council top money up into the account, and they do that via normally a monthly or 4-weekly process where they transfer funds. And it's just like paying any other provider for the council. You just pay ChooseCare for the care delivered via the providers on ChooseCare. But if the service user needs to contribute, either via an assessed contribution or if they'd like to put more money into their account for whatever reason, it's easy to do. All you do is set up a standing order or do a one-off payment to this account number and sort code with this payment reference, and then that deposit will get credited to the account. That pretty much sums up the overview of the platform from a consumer point of view. I'd be happy to answer questions about the other portals. There's also a provider portal and a council portal where you can see and monitor users. I'll switch back now to the presentation. If you do have any questions about any of the other functionality, please do type them out and we can cover those off towards the end.
Okay, thank you everybody. Hope you're finding this useful. Do keep your questions coming through and we'll try and cover off as many as we can at the end. So we've got some further slides here just to talk to you about the market research and service user insight and some scenarios. So I'll just hand back over to Jeff to take us through these. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier about the levels which we conducted co-design with this, and it was a quite informative experience. So we started out doing co-development with Barnet probably maybe a year and a half ago now, back when this was only a concept on a piece of paper. So all the screens, all the flows that we've been through, not only have they been in active use now for 4 months or so, but they were co-designed with providers, with service users, and with the council to make sure they fit in with all the processes and needs that the people have. So this is just an example screen here about one person that we had in our focus group that we used and co-development group. This is my personal favourite, being obviously a technical guy in charge of development. This is a 92-year-old who was still active and good health, and she actually rents a spare room out of the Airbnb and is active on social media, and she even helps all the people around her as well about how to use computers, and she was a real character. And so obviously not everybody's like her, we're well aware of that, plenty of other categories, but one of the things that I'm constantly questioned on is, okay, fine, you've got an online platform for care management, none of our users can use computers, and I think we should just constantly challenge that and be aware that actually that's not always the case. We've done a lot of surveys and things since. Something like 60–65% of users of direct payment people that we've been surveying use the internet in some way or another every day. And often that's just a smartphone and being active perhaps on a messaging app or something like that. But on the 65+ category, IT use is nowhere near as bad as people imagine, and it's getting better all the time. But for those people who can't use a computer or don't want to use a computer, but would still like the functionality and the lack of the audit need and things like that with ChooseCare, obviously they've got that delegate functionality in the background to fall back on. All they would need is a suitable person who can perform that role for them. So the next slide here is about the outline commercial model.
Okay, so this is where we go through how the funding comes in for the ChooseCare platform. So you'll be pleased to hear it's absolutely free of charge to the council and to the service users. The way it works is that the fees are taken on a transaction basis, paid for by the home care providers and the personal assistants. So what this means is when a booking is made through the ChooseCare platform, a small percentage is taken by way of a transaction fee, and that's what goes to developing and maintaining the ChooseCare platform. So this works very much with providers like this because it enables them a route to market, and they don't make any payments unless they have secure bookings, and the amount of payment they make is in proportion to the amount of bookings that they take. And also ChooseCare would work with the organisations, so the councils and also the providers, etc., to look at where cost savings can be made via use of the platform. Jeff talked earlier about London Borough of Barnet that we've co-developed this with, and there's sizable savings that are tabled there over the next 5 years for them. So we really see this as a win-win situation.
So yeah, just to emphasise a little bit the funding model here. With the providers, when we were designing this in the early days, we absolutely wanted it to be free to the council and service users. We had that as one of our founding principles, because we just wanted to get rid of any barriers for adoption. But the way of funding it, one of the other options we looked at was something along the lines of a membership fee or something like that. That was very unpopular with providers, because the one thing you don't want as a provider, and let's be honest, a lot of them have seen marketplaces come and go as well. The one thing you want to do is pay up front for some kind of, advertising or some membership or something like that, and then not get any work from it because you're out of pocket from day one. So with our model, just like Sally was saying there, you only get any fee attached to any work you get. So it's a much more scalable model. And what this means as well is that the large companies pay larger fees, and the smaller companies pay smaller fees. So actually, we wanted to, another downside of the membership model would be the idea that it discourages SMEs and smaller providers from accessing the market. Here it doesn't matter how big you are, because your fee grows in proportion with your use on the site, and as we help providers grow their business, then the fee grows in proportion and not before.
Okay, thank you everyone. Hope you found that informative so far. We've now got the journalist review for you. So this is because obviously, you know, we're happy and proud of what we have developed. We're very much wanting to increase that moving forward, but it's always good to get other feedbacks as well. So on the screen, I'll let you read it for yourself. We've got a quote from Tech Market View back in September of last year. So the feedback that we're receiving, although ChooseCare is still very much in its infancy, the feedback we're receiving so far is very, very positive. So the good thing about the platform still being very much in development phase is that anyone who does choose to become involved with ChooseCare and work with us will be able to help shape the way that platform develops going forward as well. So I'm sure that's of interest to you.
Yeah, it's important to note that this was written back in September, and just like Sally said, this is a continually evolving product. Even back then, the Tech Market Viewer decided we were broader and deeper in terms of the functionality than the competition out there. Everything you saw in the demo today is live and active and in use right now. It has been for several months, and we're constantly building and growing on it. So we've got really big aspirations for what we're going to do in the social care market and the offering we're going to have for councils and providers and service users. So yeah, we're really quite excited about the next year when we've got quite a significant development budget to improve and grow the platform, make it more and more useful to all our users.
Okay, so thanks for that, Jeff. So we're now moving to the questions and answers part of the presentation. So please do feel free to send through any questions that you might have. So what I would just say is I will be following up with everybody who's made the time to attend today. I will be following up with you by telephone at some point next week. So if you do think of any questions subsequently, I can pick those up with you at that point. And obviously, I'm always around. If you can't wait that long, please do feel free to give me a call and I'll try and help you with them. So let's have a look at some of the questions that we've got at the moment here. So
so it looks like actually at the beginning of the presentation, perhaps a few people had audio issues. Apologies about that. So at least it looks like the sound came back on a bit later on. So apologies about that. But please do type in any questions you've got. At the moment, we haven't got any actual questions yet.
I appreciate it's been very difficult actually due to the technical problems that we've had, so apologies again for that. We are investigating why we've had the technical difficulties. If necessary, we can always hold another webinar and I'd be happy to come out and see you all personally and go through things in more detail with you as well if that's something you'd be interested in discussing. Okay, so just looking, we can't see that there's any more questions coming through at this stage. One's just coming now. How many councils are currently using the system? Is that something you can help us with, Jeff, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, we're currently live with 2 councils. Okay, so when I say live, I mean real direct payment recipients receiving real money and spending it with real providers, completely live. To begin with those 2 councils, we started out small. We didn't want to go out to 1,000 people straight away, and then we learn the lessons. With 1,000 people, we've operated quite small over the first couple of months, and we're just now at the stage where we're ready to onboard as many users as the council are willing to pass out. So live with 2 councils right now. There's another, I don't know, 8 or so in the pipeline who are high priority for the first half of this year. Yeah, and I'd just like to add to that as well. There's a lot of councils who I'm currently speaking with who are interested in looking at this. So certainly the pipeline is looking very healthy in terms of who we might roll out sort of earlier, mid and later in this year and then on into next year as well. The next question, are there built-in audit tools to check financial rigor? So check financial rigor. So the audit tools that are built in for the council, well, first of all, the financial system underpinning this is Integra, which is another capital product which lots of councils use anyway for their own council management of the budget, and that's not just adult social care spending, that's all council spending. So that's a very, very well-proven platform which actually does all the payments, holds all the money, and holds all the client funds that we have. In terms of audit, the audit functionality we've got for the council effectively shows them every single appointment that they have paid for, how much they paid for it, which provider it was with, and which carer went and delivered that. So they get the council get very, very fine-grained information about exactly what's being spent, as well as seeing every single fund withdrawal request and what that was requested for. So in terms of the audit, it's very, very straightforward. And in addition, we send out alerts proactively if there's any problems with a certain case, so that rather than waiting for the end of the quarter or the end of the year to do an audit on that person, you can see in advance, often before care is even delivered, about upcoming problems. And we do that with our forecasting. So there's a huge amount of benefits in terms of audit and the finances here, as well as the ease of setup and management.
Okay, so the next question, somebody's asked whether the slides will be circulated around. The answer is yes. I will take that up and make sure that you will receive some slide packs to follow up and refer to afterwards.
Okay, the next question here is about how is the solution promoted to providers in a particular area? Very good point, because the first step of every single implementation is getting providers on board. With no providers, you've got no ecosystem, and you've got no ability for people to spend and manage their direct payments. So how is it done, right? So we have a provider engagement lead within ChooseCare. What we ask for with the council is a little bit of assistance, and the assistance we need is which providers do you currently use, yeah? And what kind of services do they provide, and what are their contact details? That's all we need. Once we get that information from the council, we'll supplement it with our own research about providers in the local area, and then ChooseCare will go out and engage those providers ourselves, and we will talk to them, explain what ChooseCare is. Often we ask for a co-communication with the council, so that the council say, please be aware, ChooseCare are going to come and talk to you, so it's not a cold call. That greatly helps the adoption rate for this. And then for the providers, there's no downside in signing up. We're not asking them to give us any money at any stage. They only get paid from the platform. So it's a very easy thing to do to sign providers up. And that's something that we handle our side with the ChooseCare team.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Laura Chambers, and that says, how do the personal assistants get handled through the system? Jeff, could you help us with that one, please?
Yeah, so there's lots of types of personal assistants. Is a very big topic. There's lots of types of personal assistants. In ChooseCare, we split them out into three types. We've got employed. I briefly mentioned them earlier, people who are employed by the direct payment recipient. But there's also what we call wrapper company PAs. These are PAs who are effectively employed by a company who does their payroll and other services like that, but they still manage their own care, set their own charges, and often work privately for an individual rather than be a public PA. And then there's self-employed PAs, who are people who work for themselves, want a presence on the platform, would like to be searchable and visible to users, and then they get paid and manage their own work very much like a very, very small provider would. So on one side, you've got the employed PA who just does timesheets, and they get paid periodically as well. At the moment, we offer bi-monthly or monthly payments, so a PA can get paid every couple of weeks or thereabouts, and they get paid on a regular payment run exactly the same as any other provider would. And then, yeah, the others are paid just like a provider would get paid.
Okay, so we've got a couple more questions coming through. So I've got one from Caroline Harper, which is asking about implementation timescales. So again, over to Jeff for that one, please.
Right, so implementation, I mean, the two implementations we've currently done, or I should say are currently underway, are obviously exceptions because they also included the co-design process. The implementation plan that we have moving forward once the platform's mature and ready, which we believe it is right now, having finished the co-design process, that typically takes somewhere between 3 to 6 months, depending on exactly what challenges there are around the contractuals or engaging the providers in the area. That's the kind of timescale we're looking at. We have had a lot of demand this year, so we've got a lot of people who want to start out ready for the April. A lot of councils want to start ready for April for the new financial year, and we do have a team on site who assist and do all that implementation work, typically 3 to 6 months. Okay, the next one here. how does the system work for personal health budgets and social care direct payments? Okay, so everything I showed right there was relevant and it's being used right now for direct payments, social care direct payments. If someone in addition to that also has a personal health budget, right, and there's actually not very many of those in the UK at the moment, but they've got some very, very ambitious targets to try and grow that. And we've been talking to NHS England about this exact point, and how a system like this could actually be rolled out nationally with the NHS as a preferred way of managing health budgets in a very, very similar manner. Now, that solution is still being defined. I mean, me personally, it's something I'm very passionate about. I'm very, very passionate about health and social care integration. I think it's the future. I think there's a huge amount of benefits to it. But that system is still being defined. What you would probably see on platform are two separate budgets or two separate income streams. So you would see, I don't know if you remember the monthly view I showed, you saw my contribution and council contribution. There's no reason at all why other kinds of contribution couldn't be included on this platform. For example, personal or healthcare contribution, or disability allowance contribution, or carer allowance contribution, various different things. They could all get merged into the platform. And what would happen then is it would effectively be another income stream you could use, and all we have to do then is get a broader set of providers on the platform to serve those people. So it's actually not that much work to do that, and it's something we're actively under development with to try and assist NHS England with their goals of massively increasing the number of people on personal health budgets. There are some specifics about what that money can be used for, like technical accounting details about how we have to segregate funds. I won't get into that here, but that's one of the things we're working out right now, hopefully for launch later this year.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I'm aware that we're running out of time, so we'll just pick a few more questions. So we've got another one here from Caroline saying, is there a recommended minimum number of direct payment recipients in order to make the implementation worthwhile? Jeff?
Yeah, so very sharp and very astute question there. So bear in mind we said we're free to the council. Dead true. We don't charge for implementation, or at least the standard implementation. So there is a significant cost to that, growing to the hundreds of thousands that we invest as part of implementation. So at the moment, we don't have a minimum number of direct payment recipients to make implementation worthwhile. There's no policy set on that. We are working with councils of all different sizes. I think the smallest council that we're working with at the moment, who want to implement, have 200 direct payment recipients. No problem with that at all. If the issues that we might come against is if the council wanted to implement, but they didn't. One of the main principles we've got is ChooseCare. We would like to be the direct payment management solution for the council. It should be the default option that people use when they get a direct payment. Because if not, we could go through all the expensive implementation, and then if nobody comes to the platform for whatever reason, maybe it's badly publicised or other things that are outside of our control, yeah, of course, then that would be a real problem. But no, there isn't a recommended minimum number. All we ask at the moment is that ChooseCare becomes the default mechanism for managing direct payments.
And I'd just add to that as well that obviously all councils are looking to increase their direct payment users, and so this platform will help facilitate that going forward. Okay, so thank you everybody. We've run out of time there. We are going to have to call it a day at this point. So as I say, we'll be following up with each of you next week. Do feel free to get in touch with me in the meantime if you'd like to. You should be able to see on the screen now our contact details. So there's my email address there, SallyAnn with an e.riley@capita.co.uk, or my direct number is 07710 505 410. And I'll be happy to try and answer any more questions that you have and agree the next steps with you. Okay, once again, sorry for the confusion. Thank you very much for attending, and I'll speak to you all next week in due course.
Thank you very much, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you.